President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for the kind of commitment and funding he provided to Rural Electrification Agency. One of the things that is hardly being spoken about is the fact that Mr. President approved the biggest publicly funded renewable energy project in the entire world. A $750 million project that would provide electricity to 17.5 million Nigerians by deploying 1,350 mini grids, of which 250 of them are going to be interconnected mini grids. And as at today, for the first time in the history of the country, over 1,000 mini grids are being deployed across the country. The second thing is to thank my boss, the Honorable Minister of Power. And why this is important is because of the fact that the concept of RAMCO started since the tenure of the Minister of Power, the former Minister of Power, Honorable Aliyu. He started that concept and it was just in the drawing board till when the action-oriented Honorable Minister of Power started. And when we had the discussion with them, he said, he just wants execution. And Honorable Minister of Power today marks one of the significant achievements in your tenure as Minister of Power. Then I would like to also thank the Honorable Minister of Education, just like what the Minister, the MD of MOPI mentioned. He has been on our case to make RAMCO. In fact, at some point you would think that RAMCO is an agency under Ministry of Education, the way the Minister of Education was pushing for this concept to be a reality. Thank you for pushing us. Now to my main speech. You have heard this morning about sustainability, governance, and partnership. And I want to speak about something different, much narrower and more concrete. And this is what we have already built, what we discovered, and what we found out when we went back to check on those assets that we have built. Since 2017, through the Energizing Education Program, the Rural Electrification Agency has deployed 82 megawatts of solar hybrid generation across 22 federal universities and 3 teaching hospitals. These are not projections. These are actual projects delivered and completed. And beyond that, there is 150 megawatts either under construction or in the pipeline through the DES, through the National Public Sector Solarization Initiative, and through the project being undertaken by TED Fund under the Ministry of Education. But the 82 projects that we delivered and completed, when we went back to access the 7 of them under the first phase of the project that we deployed, of the 7, only 3 were in good or usable condition. At one institution, the required special purpose vehicle had been established, but no single revenue is collected from the sale of the electrons being generated by that infrastructure. To that extent, we realized that Nigeria built world-class energy infrastructures and then watched part of it deteriorated. Not because of engineering failure, but because we had not adequately institutionalized what happens after the commissioning of the project. There was no sustainable maintenance regime, no dependable revenue mechanism, and critically, no institution whose primary responsibility was to preserve those assets throughout their economic lives. We could have chosen to not to convey or state this outcome of what we have found out, but would have chosen differently. And that is what mitigated the need for us to establish RAMCO. RAMCO is our institutional answer to that problem. Importantly, it also represents continuity. My predecessor, former Managing Director of Rural Electrification Agency, whom I must acknowledge here, Ahmed Salijijo Ahmed, started that conversation, identified this challenge, and developed a sustainability framework and secured the support of the Federal Ministry of Power for an asset management vehicle. We have taken that idea forward and we are giving it the governance, partnership, and capital structure required to succeed. I say this deliberately because one reason public institutions struggle with sustainability is that we do not always finish what others started. REA has chosen a different pathway. From Nigeria's pioneering mini-grid to the National Electrification Project to the Energizing Education Program to the DARE and now RAMCO, we are building an institution that learns, that improves, and continues regardless of who occupies the leadership position. RAMCO's mandate is straightforward: manage publicly financed renewable energy assets professionally, contract competent operation, meter, bill and collect, maintain sustainability of all this equipment. If a battery or inverter requires replacement in their age, we should not return to Ministry of Finance. We should be able to have an economic value to replace that battery or inverter. The money should already be there and the planning has to start today. RAMCO is not designed to extract profit from public institutions. Where government has fully funded the capital asset, that capital is already sunk. The tariff, therefore, should reflect what's required to operate, maintain, renew the system over its economic life. And RAMCO is certainly not another request for treasury funding. Its purpose is precisely the opposite: to move the long-term sustainability burden away from repeated public appropriation and onto commercially sustainable platform capable over time of attracting private capital. This brings me to perhaps the most important compact underlying RAMCO. I address this particularly to our vice chancellors, medical directors, and the institution supervising this asset that we deploy. Government has funded this asset, REA has built them, beneficiary institution must contribute to sustaining them by paying for the electricity they consume. Let me put it in a different context, and I give you an example. At Alex Ikweme Federal University in Abia, the plant that was commissioned in 2019 serves more than 9,500 staff and students. In the first 5 years of that plant, it generates approximately 1.8 billion in combined saving from avoided diesel purchase and electricity bills, while avoiding approximately 2.367 tons of carbon emission. Just imagine 1.8 billion saving in one institution in 1 year. So as a sustainability tariff, it's not simply a new exposure or burden on the universities. It is just a simple redirection of the part of what that institution would otherwise spend on expensive diesel or paying for electricity. Reliable electricity, just as the Minister of Power mentioned, is not free. The question is whether we pay repeatedly for diesel and fuel infrastructure, or we pay a predictable tariff that keeps a cleaner, more reliable system operating for 20 years. That is the RAMCO Compact. But RAMCO's significance goes beyond keeping the solar plants working. Under our old model, public capital travels in one direction. Government appropriates, government builds, the asset deteriorated, and government appropriates again. $1 trillion economy cannot be built on infrastructure that must repeatedly be built and rebuilt again. Every naira spent replacing an asset that we have already built is a naira unavailable to electrify another university, hospital, community, or productive enterprise. RAMCO must break that cycle. As its portfolio grows, professionally managed assets with predictable revenue can be aggregated, financed, and eventually leveraged to attract private capital. That creates a virtuous cycle that can stimulate us towards achieving the $1 trillion economy. Build, operate, preserve, generate revenue, reinvest, build again, and there is the second opportunity of localization of the equipment that we use in building and building again. Under the Nigeria First policy, public investment should help to create Nigerian industry. REA has concluded joint development agreement in partnership with MOFI and Infraco with 7 Nigerian manufacturers covering solar manufacturers that will manufacture solar modules, batteries, inverters, street lighting, and solar asset recycling. As at last year, we recorded an investment of $425 million of investment in that manufacturing cycle. A professionally managed renewable energy portfolio approaching 200 megawatts begins to create that demand, supporting Nigerian manufacturing, retaining foreign exchange, and creating skill jobs. RAMCO will not operate every plant itself. It will create an ecosystem of ESCOs, energy service company, which is another dimension of demystifying our economy and creating ecosystem that will add value to the Nigerian economy. So after today, what we are going to continue to do is a number of things. First, we will conclude the valuation and technical assessment of the asset that we already deployed in all the universities. Secondly, we will work with the Infraco and Ministry of Finance and MOFI to work with the Ministry of Power to complete the process of transferring this asset from REA's books to the RAMCO's balance sheet. Third, we will complete the onboarding the long-term operation and maintenance partners for engineering, for energizing education program phase 2 and 3 that we completed, which the Honorable Minister is about to start commissioning. 4, we will engage each beneficiary institution along the National Universities Commission, Ministry of Education and Health, as well as Budget Office to establish a workable tariff and payment arrangement, and we will report our progress publicly. If we have delivered, Nigerians will know. If we have fallen short, they will know that too. The same honesty with which we went back to examine the initial asset that we deployed, it will be the same parameter that we will use in managing RAMCO. Ladies and gentlemen, Nigeria knows how to build. REA's record is evidence that our country can conceive ambitious infrastructure and deliver it. The harder question has always been whether we can preserve what we built. RAMCO is REA's answer to that question. It represents a simple but profound change in thinking. A public project should not end with its commissioning. It is real life begin on that day. The universities and teaching hospital that we are powering are where our engineers, doctors, scientists, and entrepreneurs of Nigeria's future are being trained. Reliable electricity in those institutions is not a convenience. It is part of the infrastructure of our national development. So our ambition for RAMCO is larger than maintaining those solar panels and replacing batteries. It is to demonstrate that Nigeria can build public infrastructure that endures, pays for its own sustainability, support domestic industry, attract private capital, and continues creating value long after the commissioning ceremony is over. This is the template we intend to build, and in the tradition of this agency and of proving that difficult things can be done, we intend to prove that Nigeria can not only build well, Nigeria can preserve what it